So, streamers are not immune to bad takes, obviously.
We have technology.
It needs a good progression, reasons to fucking log in daily.
True.
It needs battle pass shit for sure, and rank game modes.
This. But ranked game modes doesn't take away from your game. It adds to your game. It gives two facets. The casual game modes are even more casual, and the ranked game modes are even more try hard. It separates people.
It didn't work.
But I don't think that means that all streamers' takes need to be written off entirely. One of the most common takes is that whenever a new FPS game comes out, streamers start asking for a Battle Royale like it's clockwork.
Battlefield doesn't need to be all
Battle Royales. Battle Royale. Battle Royale. Battle Royale. You're kind of gatekeeping the whole game from people that love Battle Royales. Battle Royale. Battle Royales.
Guys, you know, it's time to drop a Battle Royale.
Like Battle Royale or bust, you know? Battle Royale. Battle Royale. BR.
That's why the BRs.
You know, there's this talk of a BR right out of the gate.
Say the line, Bart!
I think a Battlefield Battle Royale would be fucking awesome. I don't know what to tell you.
This isn't the first time this discussion has happened, and it's also not going to be the last. To streamers, and to a certain extent the general FPS demographic, FPS games really fit into two generalized categories. First is 5v5 round-based shooters like Counter-Strike, Valorant, and Rainbow Six. The second is Battle Royales like Fortnite, PUBG, Apex, and Warzone. Now, if your multiplayer game doesn't fit into one of these two categories, pack it up because your game isn't worth playing. I know, of course, there's hero shooters, but that doesn't really help my argument, so just ignore those. I think it's important to understand why streamers are so consistent with asking for games to include Battle Royales. I believe there are two possible answers, and in reality, it's probably a mix of the two. The first and probably the simplest answer is that they just really like Battle Royales. This answer applies not just to streamers, as it also applies to other gamers who just want to see their new game have a Battle Royale. And the second is that their streaming success is somewhat dependent on Battle Royales. If we look at streamers like Nick Mercs or Tim the Tatman, they are both big streamers who have made statements about Battle Royales for Battlefield. Both of these streamers' main genre is Battle Royales. They make tons of content in games such as Warzone, Apex Legends, and Fortnite. Now, of course, being massive streamers, they will play other games when they come out, such as Marvel Rivals, or in this case, Battlefield. But their main genre is Battle Royales. I mean, it makes sense that they would be telling developers that more games need a Battle Royale mode. Think of it as a sort of lobbying. Streamers pressure developers to make a BR by telling them that it will help the game, but it also directly helps these streamers grow their stream/business.
I love playing Battle Royales. And on top of that, it's how I make a lot of my content.
Now, as I said, this isn't the first time that streamers have requested a Battle Royale. Take Halo Infinite, for example. 343 Industries had attempted to return to the more classic Bungie-era multiplayer. But streamers felt like it was missing something. Like, it didn't have that special something.
Yeah, like it's 2021 and we don't have a Halo BR yet, you know what I mean? But they're teasing it on Twitter. Cool, great.
But the Halo community fought back. Even the 343 devs shirked the idea during a live stream saying, "The only BR we're interested in is the battle rifle." Halo and 343 refused to concede to the streamers. Halo purists were elated, and the streamers moved on. However, I wouldn't say that this was a net positive for Halo Infinite. Now, Xbox doesn't publish their player counts, but they do show the most played games. Currently, Xbox's flagship franchise doesn't crack the top 10 most played games on Xbox, and even losing out to the Master Chief Collection. But the lack of a Battle Royale isn't why Halo Infinite didn't succeed. It having less players than the MCC is emblematic enough that Halo Infinite just lacked content. Infinite launched with 10 maps and 7 game modes, no Forge, and no campaign. Now, in fairness to 343, the game did eventually get a campaign on December 8th because of development issues, but that's still 23 days after the multiplayer. Just for reference, Halo Reach had 8 multiplayer maps and 12 game modes, 8 firefight maps, Forge, and a campaign on launch. And in defense of the streamers, a Battle Royale is more content. However, this time DICE, unlike 343, is giving Battlefield a Battle Royale. Global Community Manager for Battlefield, Kevin Johnson, posted on July 30th to X that a Battle Royale would be coming to Battlefield Labs, and then the next day, the main Battlefield X account posted a teaser trailer for Labs. The trailer doesn't explicitly say it's a Battle Royale, but it has the same firestorm from Battlefield 5's Battle Royale named Firestorm. So that's it then? The conversation's over? Battlefield's getting a Battle Royale? Question answered? Well, sort of. Regardless of DICE's decision, I still think that having this conversation about the pros and cons of a Battle Royale is important. Because, as is the case with Halo, and now Battlefield, more games are going to come out and people are going to want to have a Battle Royale in them. Think Splitgate. Although Halo Infinite's lack of success isn't due to exclusively a BR, I still think that a BR would fit the game. This is no different than my opinion of Battlefield. There are solid reasons why both games would work with a BR, but to 343's defense, there are some reasons why it wouldn't. Now, in order to figure out if a Battle Royale works for Battlefield, I think it's only reasonable to go over the arguments for and against it. Halo, in my opinion, is a perfectly analogous situation to Battlefield, not just because the streamers had requested the game get a Battle Royale, but because both games have a sandbox that undeniably could work in a Battle Royale. Both games have vehicles, a weapon sandbox that is balanced around larger maps. For Halo, they had item pickups that could facilitate squad play, and Battlefield has class items that directly contribute to squad-centric mechanics. And for Battlefield, it has destruction. I think we can look at other successful Battle Royales as a sort of a benchmark. Take Call of Duty Warzone. It has helicopters, and Halo has helicopters. Sort of. It's called the Falcon and the Hornet. And then Battlefield just has helicopters. Jeeps to Warthogs. As well, the weapon sandbox of both Halo and Battlefield lends itself well to larger maps. Battlefield maps are large enough that they can take sections of the map and use them for other modes. No Shark Canals from BF3, for example, supports Conquest, Rush, and TDM. Now, obviously Halo's main point isn't large maps, it's more of an arena shooter, but it still has large maps, like Sand Trap, Sidewinder, and Blood Gulch.
Girls never like me. Caboose, I don't think anybody likes you. I like me.
Then there's classes. Battlefield's classes would fit perfectly in a Battle Royale scenario. As DICE has balanced the classes around small squads, there wouldn't need to be any harsh change to make it fit into a Battle Royale. Halo is no different, having equipment pickups like grappling hooks or a threat sensor. Equipment and classes are functionally the same. A threat sensor functions like the recon class, gathering info for your team. A repair field fills the role of the support or medic. Halo's sandbox would undeniably work for a Battle Royale. However, Halo had other problems. As has already been stated previously a few times, Halo had no content. The statement that a BR would have saved Infinite isn't true because of Halo's requirement for a BR, but because a BR is simply more content for players to experience. People get burnt out quickly when there's a lack of diversity in content they're playing. Now, diversity in gameplay comes in many different ways. Take League of Legends, for example. Summoner's Rift, the same map every single time you play the game. Even if you play the same champion every time, you're playing against the potential 170 possible lane matchups. Now, of course, lane metas kind of ruin that argument a bit, as if a champion's broken, people will just play that one constantly, but the point still stands.
Fix the game! It sucks playing the shit! And I'm fucking addicted!
For games like Battlefield, each gunfight is so quick that you don't think about what weapon they're using. Shooting a guy who has an LMG will not noticeably feel any different than if he had an SMG. Now, you might notice it on the death card as you complain that he's using a broken weapon, but you don't notice it while you're fighting him.
I'm a god with this. I can control day and night.
I don't know about that. Okay, fair enough.
So where am I going with all this? Well, developers will sometimes put side attractions for a game that is not the main game, but will also not detract from the game, but rather add a whole new audience to your game. Take Call of Duty Zombies, for example. There are people who do not touch the multiplayer of COD and only play the game for the zombies. And of course, the same thing can be said for Call of Duty about Warzone. Halo, of course, has its tertiary modes with Firefight and Forge. Battlefield, on the other hand, has never really had one, except for the one time in Battlefield 3 when it had a co-op mode. The co-op mode was a side story to Battlefield 3's main campaign, which you attempted to stop a terror plot in Europe. The game itself is kind of similar to MW2's Spec Op missions. There are some benefits to having a side mode in your game. To give a small anecdote, when Warzone launched, the only reason I would play the multiplayer was so that I would have a functional loadout for the Battle Royale. It gave me a goal to grind skins and attachments so that when I loaded into Warzone with my friends, I would have any loadout I wanted. Cold War also had something similar to this with Zombies, where you could grind for skins in there and then bring those skins over to multiplayer or to Warzone. Now, I will touch on this later, as there are some negatives to this situation I just described. For Battlefield and Halo, a BR does not mean that there needs to be some cross progression, even though for Battlefield, they could just copy the same system as Warzone. But just like COD Zombies, it could be a big enough mode on its own that it doesn't detract from the main game, but adds a whole new mode to alleviate the burnout. Now, as these streamers have already argued, a BR will of course bring more players to Battlefield than Halo.
It would take over everything, man. Halo BR is fucking so easy. It's such an easy make.
If streamers play the game more people will come and play the game. Take Rainbow Six Siege, for example. It is undeniable that Jinxie put a bigger spotlight on Siege, with both Siege growing because of Jinxie, but also Jinxie growing because of Siege.
L excuses, right hand on the Bible. God can strike me down if I'm lying. That motherfucker's cheating!
But it's not just Siege. Among Us, Lethal Company, Repo, and Peak are all games that grow streamers, but also grow because of streamers. What this means for Halo and Battlefield is that if we wake up in an alternate timeline where EA and Microsoft don't take money for yearly bonuses and instead spend it back on the games will get better with more content. Now, all of this is sort of contingent on the Battle Royale being good. I'm sorry to all 10 of you, but Blackout was not good, and neither was Firestorm and BF5. BF5 was kind of like Halo Infinite in that it didn't have a great launch, and so by the time Firestorm came out, it's questionable if even if it was good, it would have saved the game. And for Hitmarker Simulator, it did not save Black Ops 4. These games would have failed with or without a Battle Royale. Gamers, whether they will admit it or not, are very protective of their idealized version of a game or franchise. But this overprotection isn't always irrational. Alright, I'm sorry in advance, but to explain this next part, I'm gonna need to get a little nerdy. Dr. Robert K. Merton, a sociologist, when talking about social institutions such as the family unit, argued it had two functions, the manifest function and the latent function. The manifest function is its explicit reason for existing, and the latent are the unintended functions of that institution. For example, the family institution, the manifest function is the raising of the children, and the latent is that it socializes the children and instills them with a sense of culture so that they can function in a normal society. The manifest function is its explicit purpose for existing, so why it was created. Latent function is the unforeseen utility of it. Okay, sorry for the lecture, but it's relevant, I promise. To bring it back to gaming, let's take the movement system in Halo as an example. If we look at the movement system in Halo the same way we look at social institutions, there are some similarities that emerge. The manifest function in movement is that it allows a player to go from point A to B. However, in a movement system, the latent functions are a bit more complicated. An example of one of the latent functions would be how fast the player is able to move around the map. Change how quickly players can get from point A to point B, and that can change how quickly players get to vantage points or get to the power weapons that spawn on the map. This has an overall effect on the feel and flow of the match. For asymmetrical maps, this can be a huge issue. Now, if you don't change the size of the map or the weapon spawn locations, changing the movement speed can affect the player's time to engage at the start of a match and can also affect how quickly players get to weapons such as precision weapons that spawn on the map at the start. So, when 343 added Sprint to Halo as a default movement ability, it changed the way Halo functioned with a cascade of unforeseen and latent gameplay mechanics. Okay, now to bring it back to what this whole video is about, fans are generally conservative about their game franchises, and Battlefield players are no different. Halo fans with Sprint have already experienced firsthand the consequences of latent functions, and were of course worried when streamers said that Halo needed a BR. Now you may ask how a Battle Royale is similar to adding Sprint. Warzone and Modern Warfare 2019 were in development at the same time, and Modern Warfare 2019 was also the first game to add tactical sprint to the game. Now, I believe that Tac Sprint was added in preparation for traversing large maps like Warzone's map for Dansk. Now, I know that Warzone was implemented after the initial release of Modern Warfare 2019, but it stands to reason that they would be in development around the same time. Infinity Ward didn't outright say that tactical sprint was added for larger maps like Warzone, but it certainly did help game modes like Warzone. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about the latent effects this had on Call of Duty's gameplay loop, but clearly it wasn't good as people have been asking for its removal. Clearly Treyarch agreed as they removed it in Black Ops 7. Battlefield players should and have the right to be a little skeptical of the introduction of a new mode like a BR. DICE could add something to the game that could have consequences to the regular gameplay loop like Tac Sprint did for COD. If there is a second mode that runs parallel to regular multiplayer, the devs are then forced to balance two separate game modes that have two different gameplay loops. I think it's undeniable at this point that the regular tactical sprint in Modern Warfare had an effect on the multiplayer that was a negative. Otherwise, why would people be asking for its removal? Similar to how Halo fans have been asking for Sprint to be removed.
Chief, Be careful!
Another issue that a BR could present for Battlefield is that if it is successful, the regular multiplayer could lose development attention altogether. Now, of course, if it's like Firestorm, there's no need to worry. If the Battle Royale is successful, it could split the player base. Even if more people are brought in to play the game, that doesn't guarantee that it's all new players and that some of the players won't abandon the main multiplayer to play the BR, potentially killing the main multiplayer. But in all honesty, this isn't the worst issue that the game could have. If the BR is successful, this is the worst issue that it could have.
It's an ambush!
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Now, I'm not going to say this twice, but if Battlefield has a Nicki Minaj skin, I'm going to lose it. Okay, in all seriousness, an actual thing to consider is if the game does poorly. It's sort of self-explanatory why a BR failing would be bad. Similar to Battlefield 2042's Hazard Zone, if they spend a lot of time developing a BR and it fails, now they have a failed game mode and an underdeveloped multiplayer. There are also some industry-level issues to consider for Battle Royales. Other than streamers, the regular people could just be getting tired of Battle Royales. H1Z1, PUBG, Fortnite, Blackout, Ring of Elysium, Realm Royale, Apex Legends, Firestorm, Warzone, Hyperscape, Naraka Bladepoint, Warzone 2, Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. And those are just some shooters. There are plenty others. I mean, even Forza Horizon has a Battle Royale called the Eliminator. What I'm getting at here is there's also a lot of competition. It's more than people just being burnt out. At this point, people are already invested in any one of these Battle Royales. Alright, not Blackout, or Ring of Elysium, or Realm Royale, or Firestorm, or Hyperscape, or the original Warzone. It's an industry-level Battle Royale just to be the best Battle Royale. But people have invested money into skins and bundles, or time into the game just to get good at playing it. Why would they want to come over and play the Battlefield Battle Royale instead of playing what they're currently playing? People will probably come, try it out, play it for a little bit, and then go back to whatever it was they were playing before. So, when you look at all this together, it's a risk of splitting the player base, chance it flops, and the competition that's already established in BRs. It's not hard to see why Battlefield Battle Royale would be such a huge gamble. Okay, with all the arguments laid out, strongest for and strongest against, do I think that a Battle Royale for Battlefield is a good thing? Yes. I don't think the arguments against it are as compelling. Take my academic lecture on sociology. Yes, changing a core part of the game to fit a Battle Royale such as movement would hurt the game. However, as already discussed, Battlefield already has open maps and a squad-based system in place, and therefore I don't believe that any changes should be made, or need to be made. The arguments I made about the game failing due to market saturation only works if Battlefield brings nothing new to the table. But Battlefield already distinguishes itself from other multiplayer shooters with its emphasis on squad-based tactics and destruction. In a Battlefield Battle Royale, if someone's camping in a building, just blow up the building.
Wall blocking your way? Try C4, a rocket launcher, or your handy sledgehammer.
The Battlefield formula is distinct enough from other games to sustain a Battle Royale. Now, of course, if they did make changes, I'd have to eat my words. And this is EA we're talking about. But my point still stands. Battlefield does not have to change to fit a Battle Royale. The reason I brought up Halo in the first place is because I believe that the same arguments that could be made for Halo can also be made for Battlefield. One of the main arguments made to explain Infinite's low player count was its lack of content. Streamers claim that if the game didn't have a Battle Royale, it would fail. This is and isn't true. As I said earlier in the video, Halo had no content. The statement that a BR would have saved Infinite isn't true because of Halo's requirement for a BR, but because a BR is simply more content for players to experience. Now, this does contradict the argument that another game mode for Battlefield would split the player base. Adding a new mode is more content, but it will attract players away from the main game to the Battle Royale. However, I don't buy this. Warzone didn't kill the main multiplayer for COD. This is evident by the sales numbers of subsequent Call of Duties. Modern Warfare 2019 sold 41 million copies, and Cold War and Vanguard sold 30 million. Although Cold War did sell less than Modern Warfare, this doesn't show that Warzone was the culprit, as Vanguard also sold the exact same as Cold War. What is more probable is that there was a general fatigue with the Call of Duty franchise. We can see this happening again with the general reaction to the Black Ops 7 trailer. But even if I concede that Warzone cannibalized some players from the multiplayer, the yearly releases I still believe did more damage. Warzone is free to play, and for the players who played mostly Warzone, they didn't need to buy the next Call of Duty to play Warzone. This shouldn't be an issue for Battlefield though, as it doesn't have yearly releases. Oh. Well then. That all being said, if we use COD as a reference, even if the multiplayer lost some players to Warzone, it wasn't enough to be noticeable, as Modern Warfare's multiplayer still had a stable player base, and so did Cold War's. I genuinely believe that Battlefield's multiplayer player count will be fine if the Battle Royale is successful. So I'm going to catch some flack for saying this, but I agree with the streamers. I think they're right. Just like Halo, a Battlefield Battle Royale makes sense. I don't think the downsides are as believable. But, again, this is EA we're talking about. I'm sure they'll screw this up.